Hi everyone, welcome to another Friday Night Live. It's really good to be with you. Michael and Sarah did a fantastic job last week introducing our new series where we're looking at mental health. I think we'd probably all agree that this has been a challenging season in terms of our emotions, with so many things being flung at us that we weren't expecting at the beginning of 2020. Even in the last week, COVID regulations for Birmingham and Solihull and Sandwell, don't want to miss anyone out, have changed. So it's a challenging time for so many of us, even for those of us who haven't historically struggled with their mental health before. So Michael and Sarah looked last week at emotions, how it's important to identify our emotions, acknowledge what they are, and be able to talk and find someone to talk to as well, particularly if we're struggling emotionally and we need a bit of extra support. And that is still the case in terms of this week. If you feel you need to talk to any of us, you can always message us at the end of the session if you do need to talk about anything that you're not sure about this evening, or it triggers thoughts in you that you just want to chat to somebody about. That's absolutely fine. So this evening I'm going to unpack and unpick a little bit mental health in terms of what it is, and just go a bit deeper um, into the things that Michael and Sarah touched upon last week when they introduced the subject of mental health. And we're going to start off by looking at what it isn't, and then we're going to look at what it is. So basically, what is mental health? Why does it matter? Is our topic for this evening, is our title. So that's what we're going into. So what it isn't, to start with, it isn't always negative. It isn't shameful, and it isn't something we should not be talking about. What it is something that we all have. This is what Michael and Sarah touched upon last week. We all have mental health, just like we all have physical health, we all have mental health. Okay, and that means that it can be changeable, just like physical health can be changeable. We might have a cold one day, we might feel fine the next day. Just in the same way, our emotional health, our mental health can change. It can fluctuate, it can vary, sometimes from day to day. And particularly during this season, where even for people who have not struggled in the past with their mental health, with so many things that we weren't expecting being thrown at us, it can actually stretch us to capacity. And this is what we're going to look at in some depth this evening. So according to Google, or wisdom is found in Google, as we all know, the mental health.gov website, which is based in the USA, I believe, I actually say that mental health includes our emotional, psychological, social well-being. So emotional, psychological, social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. And this is what we're going to be focusing a little bit in more depth this evening, is the next bit. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. So it also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. And with that in mind, I'm going to ask you a slightly weird question. I'm going to ask you, how full is your bucket? This is my bucket. I know it's a cup, but I didn't really want to bring a massive bucket in here and have it in front of my laptop. It wouldn't have gone very well. Okay. Now, a lot of psychologists talk about our mental health and use the image of a bucket. Okay, so this is you, or this is me. Okay, and this is our capacity to handle all of life's challenges that are thrown this way. Okay, at the moment, this particular bucket, okay, belongs to somebody who has done lots of fun things, has been able to has maybe slept well, has maybe been able to do lots of fun things that they enjoy doing, like hang out with friends. But of course, during this season, that can be quite a challenge to find things that we enjoy doing, because some of those things are being taken away from us. Okay, but on an ideal day, you may wake up like this. So you've slept well and you're ready to face a new day. Okay, but then what might happen is you go downstairs and your dad might ask you to put the bins out, and your brother was supposed to do them, or your sister was supposed to do them, and so it makes you a bit grumpy. So you end up with a little bit of stress. This liquid is the stress in your bucket. You're still okay. Okay, you still got lots of capacity to handle more. Okay, but you're feeling a little bit. Ooh, you know what that feels like, don't you? So, and then what happens is, because you were arguing with your brother or your sister about whose turn it is to take the bins out, you then end up missing the bus to go to school. So now you're feeling really stressed. Okay, so your capacity to deal with anything else has diminished. Okay, but someone with good, stable mental health, the psychologist would tell you that what happens is, when you then get into school, what you then do is like find some friends to have a chat to and just say, oh, this is what happened at home today, and I'm just a little bit miffed about it. You might gossip about what you did over the weekend, talk to your friends about what you watched on Netflix and what you enjoyed doing, and so that's kind of taken out some of the stress, and so you're feeling a bit better now. You've got the capacity now, the mental and the emotional capacity to get through the day. Okay. Then what might happen, you might get into one of your lessons, and you might get thrown some homework that needs to be done the next day. Okay, and you're thinking, but I haven't got time. I'm meant to be going out and playing football, or probably not now. But I might, I was planning on doing something nice this evening. I wanted to have some chill time. I don't want to be doing maths homework or whatever it is. So straight away, then your stress level might start to go up again. Okay, but then what happens is, when you get home, you ever think about it and think, well, actually, maybe what I could do is just have a nice meal with my family, have a chat to my mum and my dad about it, and perhaps then I'll feel a little bit better, and I'll feel like I'm able to do that homework, and then maybe I could have a treat afterwards, play a game on the Xbox or whatever, and then hopefully by the time I go to bed, I'll be feeling nice and chilled, got the maths homework out of the way, so I haven't got that hanging over me anymore. And ideally, in an ideal world, when you go to bed, your bucket, or your cup in this case, should look like that. Okay, that's if you've got good, stable mental health. What that means is that when you have got things coming into your bucket that stress you out, you've got ways of actually reducing that stress. You can actually get rid of them. You know what to do to actually replenish yourself, to actually find joy and peace. And that for us is really important during this season. It's really important that we find ways to empty our bucket. Okay. Now this might be someone with good, stable mental health. Okay. But what if, and this certainly could be me, because I struggle with anxiety anyway. But during this time, very often what's happening is a lot of us are walking around already like this. Okay. And a lot of it might be to do with the whole COVID situation, but it might not be. But for some of us, and if you're vulnerable to struggling with your mental health like I am, then you could be walking around like this for most of the time. Or, as in my case 2 weeks ago, you could even wake up in the morning like this. I actually went to bed one night 2 weeks ago already feeling quite stressed, because I knew I was going to be going on a coach back to Birmingham from my mum's, where I'd been staying over the summer, and I was feeling really anxious because it was the first time I'd planned to go on public transport. I was going to go on any form of public transport with anybody else anywhere near me, and I was really quite anxious about it. So this was before I'd even got out of bed in the morning. I was feeling like this, so 2 weeks ago. Okay, then I found out that Birmingham might be going into lockdown. So some friends told me that. So my stress level went up to about here. Okay, and then on the Monday night, this is the bank holiday Monday, this is the week I was supposed to be coming back to Birmingham, my mum woke up in tremendous pain. She was in absolute agony, and I ended up phoning 911, and She ended up having to go into hospital. They had to call an ambulance for her, and she was really, really unwell. Of course, I wasn't able to visit her, and the whole thing was really stressful. I ended up staying in Bristol an extra week. Now you know where I come from. And basically, I just reached overwhelm point. I did not have the capacity to cope with anything else stressful. Okay, so yeah, and like if you are struggling with your mental health, this could be how you're walking around. And there's no shame in that. That's why I'm talking about my own circumstances. And for many of us, even if you have not struggled with your mental health before, these are challenging times. So for many of us, we might be walking around like this, and anything else that comes along will just literally tip you over the edge. Okay. And this is when we need to look at Jesus and think about, okay, Jesus, right? He was God, yeah? He never did anything wrong. Okay? So surely he would be walking around like this the whole time. Okay? Jesus is our role model for everything. Okay? So what was his mental health like? Well, it may be surprise you to know, and I think, and there's evidence in the Bible for this, that he would be pretty much walking around like this. So he would have had he would have capacity in his bucket to deal with anything else that came his way. Okay, but he needed to find ways of replenishing um, his life, of finding ways of refreshing himself to try and reduce the stress level in his bucket. Okay, and this is what we're going to look at now in terms of Jesus. How did he reduce the stress level in his bucket? How did he find ways of trying to maintain good, stable mental health in a season where it was really challenging for him? Just like we're in a season where it's really challenging for us. Jesus knew he was going to die on the cross. He talked to his disciples about it. He knew this was coming. So I can pretty much guarantee if at this point, although he was fully God, he was also fully man, he would have been walking around like this. So what did he do to replenish and relax? First of all, he needed his Father. Okay, so Jesus needed his Heavenly Father. He needed God. So he would spend time praying. He would actually disappear up into mountains for periods of time where his disciples would actually be wondering where he'd gone to. But he was going to spend time with his Father. That was really important to him. And that is really important for us as well. We need to spend time with God. For me, that would look like maybe looking at a Bible app on my phone, listening to a worship song in the morning, going for a walk in the park, because that being close to nature makes me feel close to God. Okay, so Jesus needed to spend time with his Father. How much more do we? Jesus also needed rest and relaxation. He needed to spend time hanging out with friends, doing stuff he enjoyed. He enjoyed meals, he enjoyed parties. He even provided wine at a wedding feast when they ran out of wine. So he would find ways of removing some of the stress from his bucket. The final thing that Jesus needed to do, okay, was that he needed to spend time with friends. He wanted to talk to people about the stuff that was going on in his life. He wanted to share with them some of the things that he was struggling with. And in Matthew chapter, let's see if I can find it, chapter 26, starting at verse 36, it says this. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane. This is just before he was arrested. He knows the cross is hanging over him. He said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little further, he fell with his face to the ground. He's clearly struggling. He knows the cross is coming. And he prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but yours be done." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to them, "Could you not stay awake for 1 hour? Could you not stay awake with me?" Even Jesus needed friends. He needed his Father. He needed rest and relaxation. But the one thing that he needed at this moment were his friends. And they had deserted him. They weren't there when he needed them most. In Luke, in the same passage in the book of Luke, it talks about the fact that Jesus was actually sweating drops of blood. He was absolutely terrified of going to the cross. You only sweat drops of blood if you are really, really scared. Really scared. Jesus reached overwhelm point. He understands what it's like to really struggle with your mental health. He tried to maintain good mental health by spending time with his Father, by resting, relaxing, doing stuff he enjoyed. And he also craved friendship. And it was at the point where his friends deserted him that he was just overwhelmed. Isn't it comforting to know, though, that in the midst of all of this, Jesus understands, even in terms of struggling with our mental health. Jesus has been there. He gets it. There's no shame in struggling in this season. I'm struggling in this season. If you're struggling in this season, there is no shame in that. So in terms of what we're going to do next, we're going to hop onto Zoom and we're going to look at some questions. How do you look after your physical health? We know that's important, don't we? So it's even more important, or it's as important, I should say, to look after our mental health. What would that look like to you? What does your mental health look like at the moment, do you think? Just do a little examination in your heart. How full is your bucket? Is it like this? No shame if it is like this. There's no shame in that. Have you got a little capacity for a bit more? For a bit more stress to come your way? Or are you able, like Jesus is trying to teach us, to find ways of emptying your bucket? And what might those ways be for you? What do you do in order to find peace? We have to be proactive during this season to do that, I think. Because some of those things that we would ordinarily have done that give us peace and joy, we can't do at the moment. Or we can do, but they might be stressful. Even something like going for a meal, going to a park. We have to be so vigilant. These things can be difficult, so we have to be really creative right now. How are we going to maintain our mental health in this season? Jesus is our example. Let's have a little chat over in Zoom about that. See you in a bit. Bye.